My name is Doreen Sachs. My maiden name was Doreen King. I was born in Bulawayo. My parents were from Poland. My father arrived in Bulawayo, we think in 1928. He had a brother in Salisbury, and later they brought another brother from Poland to be with the three of them. My mother was from Poland, and she came, we think, in 1929 and married my father then. My father was a very good hairdresser in Bulawayo, and he had a salon in Abercorn Street. And as children, I remember running backwards and forwards to Lobel's bakery and making a nuisance of ourselves, Leslie Lobel included. I had a brother, Leslie, and a sister, a younger sister, Sylvia. Unfortunately, both of them have passed away. I was born in Bulawayo, and my father was a very stickler on religion, and I was brought up in a very religious background. And my father was a big macha in the Chevra Kadisha in Bulawayo. When I was about 5, I think I joined Shtilim, and Ronnie Firmanovsky was my madrich. As time went on, I joined Habonim, and we so looked forward to the Bulawayo, the Salisbury people coming to Bulawayo. And the Roads and Founders Weekend was great fun. And I remember one year, Giselle came with the group, and Giselle Benzanana, that's right. And she was staying with us and always kissed when she walked in and she walked out. And I remember on Shabbos, all the kissing that went on around the family. And so my father called her the Shabbos cookie. He was very, very fond of her. We had a super time when it came to Roads and Founders with the Salisbury group, and it made my life much easier because in 1948 we moved to Salisbury. My father went to join his 2 brothers who had left Bulawayo to go and live in Salisbury. I was very good at ball games. I played hockey, netball, tennis, and when our Roads and Founders weekends were taking place, I was always in the team for the hockey, the tennis, and the table tennis. So Girls High School in Salisbury, I joined in Form 1, and again I was in all the teams. The only team I wasn't in was the tennis, the swimming. I didn't like getting my face wet. And we had great fun in Habonim because we did all sorts of things. And we went to camp, the Habonim camp. We went to Nahoon in East London. Great fun. There were a lot. I've got a picture. I went to 2 camps in East London at Nahoon. One year I was the youngest there. They allowed me to go because my brother, Leslie, was there to look after me. But I ended up looking after him as he was taken to a hospital with very bad bronchitis. And they let my father and mother know before we got there that he'd been in hospital. So they were waiting at the station in Bulawayo, very, very worried. Quite a scene. I finished Girls High School and went to Cape Town to study to be a teacher. It was a 3-year course, and afterwards I had a letter of introduction to be teaching at the Salman Margolis Nursery School, which I accepted. And I was there for 16 years, which were excellent years. Lovely, wonderful, loving years. I had fantastic students, and I still see many, many of them. When I finished studying and started teaching, I met my husband, Frank Sachs. My job was at the Salman, my first job, my only job of teaching was at the Salman Margolis Nursery School, which I taught for 16 years. They were good years, loving years, and I still see many of my students. Soon after arriving back, I met my husband, Frank, and we got married in 1958. And we were blessed with 4 beautiful children who have given Frank and I 6 magnificent grandchildren. I won't say that they're all beautiful, because they all are, but it's a granny talking. My years of teaching at the nursery school were really very good. I can't even say how wonderful those years were, how fulfilling they were for me. And I remember each and every one of my students. Bobby Stern was the supervisor. I taught the smallest group, which I felt was important. The first year of school life was very important. And Bobby was teaching the eldest group, and Helene Lips, she was then, came in to teach, and that was a super 2 years teaching with her. She took the middle group, and Bobby, as I said, had the younger group, which I had a lot to do with them as well, teaching the Hebrew side of it, playing the piano, and generally being more involved with all the children, not only the smaller ones. Well, there were 72 children, and it depended on the income of how many came in, how it was divided up. Well, I think we had about 26, 28 children to a class. Does that add up to 72? You work it out. It was, the school was next door to the Dutty Hall. Across the road was the park, the main Salisbury Park. And there was a dropping off section for the children, and we got permission for me to park my car right outside the school in case of an emergency, so that there was always one car available to take a child if necessary, if the parent couldn't come, if there was an accident. I remember one accident which really came. Gary Peer was driving, he liked to drive his bicycle very fast round the corner, and I said, Gary, slow down. And he didn't, and he hit the side of the step, and he flew into the step and grabbed his eye, because he'd actually opened up the top of his eyelid, and went to phone Justine, and she was available, and she came to fetch him, and very nonchalantly said, oh dear, you've hurt yourself, come on, let's go. Took him to the doctor. He had stitches, and brought him straight back to school, which I thought was fantastic. She didn't panic, she took it in her stride and in Gary's stride. lovely child, big boy now. When I got back to Salisbury after studying in Cape Town, I joined the Salisbury Youth Society and became vice chair. And we used to organize parties and get-togethers with the Jewish youth. That was between the age of 18 upwards, because they had left Abonim. When I left the nursery school, my children were, I didn't tell you my children's names. There was Melanie, Anthony, Gary, and Stacy. Melanie now lives in Israel. Anthony lives in Canada and has one child. Melanie has 3. Anthony has 1 son. And Gary lives in Australia. He has 2 girls. Stacy is an actress and lives in Sweden and is now doing a PhD after having done a master's. She went to university and did a drama and became very active in acting. She did 3 movies and has done many plays. And then she did a master's in Sweden in clowning and did a lot for Clowns Without Borders. She is now doing a PhD in performance. After my nursery school days, I was talking to Helene's mother, Mrs. Lips, and she suggested that I go to St. Giles and introduced me to Mrs. Lady Cummings. And I thought I would go into the nursery department, which she poo-pooed and said no, occupational therapy. And I did tell her that I had never done occupational therapy, but she was very quick to tell me, oh, I would be trained. Okay, my training was, get on with it, Doreen. You'll learn as you go, which I did. And there were 5 good years, very fulfilling. I was teaching 5 children, and it was supposed to be part-time, and it worked out at every day of the week. St. Giles Rehabilitation Centre was for both adults and children who were not quite adept with their writing, reading. Their elderly were more needing physiotherapy and occupational therapy. The children were mainly for occupational therapy. If there were, as many children were, crippled in many ways. Some were in a wheelchair, others an arm or a leg was not quite right due to birth or a fall that something had happened. But mainly occupational therapy was for the brain and for the hands. So from my nursery school training, I was able to do things with them when they weren't adept. And I did the other side of the training with the brain with them, which was very, very fulfilling, really, to see the results after teaching. I had, as I said, I started off with 5 children once a week, each child, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I ended up with 8 children. And I was there for many, many hours, which was all voluntary. I did not get paid for it. Wonderful work. I loved it.